Happy Ridván. For today's story, I'd like to read The Garden of Paradise, which is taken from the book Baha'u'llah, The Central Figures, and it starts with a quote of Baha'u'llah. The divine springtime is come, O most exalted pen, for the festival of the All-Merciful is fast approaching. The Garden of Paradise. This is a story about Baha'u'llah, the prophet and founder of the Baha'i faith. Baha'is are followers of Baha'u'llah, and Baha'is believe that Baha'u'llah is the prophet sent by God to bring us laws and teachings for today. Can you name some of the other prophets of God that Baha'is believe in? Like Moses or Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha? After Baha'u'llah was banished from Iran because of his belief in the Bab, he lived in Iraq for many years. He lived in the city of Baghdad. Baha'u'llah became very famous in Baghdad. Many people wanted to see him and ask for his advice. They knew that he was a great and wise man, but they didn't know that he was a prophet of God. That was a secret. And for many years, Baha'u'llah didn't tell anyone his secret. One day, Baha'u'llah took some friends outside the city for a day in the country. Everyone was happy. They were glad to be with Baha'u'llah and to have a chance to hear his words. Unexpectedly, Baha'u'llah shared a new tablet that he had just revealed. It was called the Tablet of the Holy Mariner. This new tablet told a very sad story. The story is about a maiden who comes from heaven to look for true believers in God. She cannot find even one, so she falls down and dies in the dust. Then she is carried away back to heaven. Baha'u'llah's companions were shocked to hear this story. Suddenly, they were sad and afraid. Then Baha'u'llah told them all that it was time to go back to Baghdad. Somehow, they all knew that they would never return to that place again. Just then, a messenger came to Baha'u'llah from the governor, and the news spread that Baha'u'llah was to be banished again, sent away from Baghdad. He was ordered to Constantinople, the capital city of the Ottoman Empire. Hundreds of people came to Baha'u'llah's house in Baghdad in confusion and grief. His friends were crying. They were afraid that they would never see Baha'u'llah again. The crowds so overran the house that no one could make preparations for the journey. So it was decided that Baha'u'llah should go with a few friends to a garden and live in a tent so that the family could pack and make ready. The garden Baha'u'llah stayed in was called the Garden of Ridván, which means the Garden of Paradise. Baha'u'llah lived in the Garden of Ridván for 12 days and nights. During this time, all of his friends in Baghdad came to see him to say goodbye. Baha'u'llah was very kind and loving to them, but they were all very unhappy. They did not want him to go away. It was in this garden, the Garden of Ridván, that Baha'u'llah first revealed his mission. He told his secret to a few of his followers. He told them that he was a prophet of God, sent to bring new laws and teachings to all the people of the world. This was the greatest news that anyone had ever heard. Now, Baha'u'llah's friends found that their sadness turned into joy. The roses that grew everywhere in the Garden of Ridván seemed large and beautiful. The birds that sang in the garden at night seemed to be the nightingales of paradise. Those who had learned the secret were happier than they had ever been before. And here's an illustration of what the garden might have looked like with all the flowers and the tents pitched. After 12 days in the Garden of Ridván, Baha'u'llah left Baghdad forever. He rode out of the city on a great horse whose dark red coat was sprinkled with white. Crowds of people came into the streets to see him off. Most of them still did not know his secret, and they were sad. But those who learned the secret had found a new faith. No one ever forgot Baha'u'llah's days in the Garden of Ridván. Every year, we also remember them and celebrate them. Baha'is come together to say prayers and to remember Baha'u'llah's declaration of his mission to the first Baha'is. Baha'u'llah has called the celebration of these holy days the most great festival, the king of festivals, and the festival of God.
O friend, in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. O friend, in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. In the garden of thy heart, in the garden of thy heart, in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. Oh friend, in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. Oh friend, in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. In the garden of thy heart, in the garden of thy heart, in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of